one of the many exciting things about joining Live was being able to come here and play in front of a Spanish crowd, especially on a level of event and level of competition that I hadn't really yet enjoyed, right? I've been able to play events in Spain.
Here in the beautiful Valderrama, which some say is the European Augusta, it's so special. There's so much history here. There's so much Spanish history here.
Well, it has so much history behind. It's only a 50 years old club, but so much has happened through the years. I mean, we had the Ryder Cup, we had World Gold Championships, and now we have Liv. It's
very exciting, and really, if there was ever a place to get my first win, I feel like this would be the perfect week.
I feel like when this wind in this golf course is so difficult that it's equally stressful no matter when or where you're playing it. But it was fun. It's always fun to be back home and be with the home crowd. It's always a joy to have this many people supporting me all day. It's so much fun.
What the heck course were you playing today?
I don't know.
It's brutal out there.
It is brutal. I don't know. I just made everything I looked at, Jerry. You have those days. I suppose this is one of those days for me, so I relished it. I really enjoyed it. Every time I stood over a putt, just felt like I could make it, and you don't get days like that too often, or certainly I don't. So I relished in it, and I managed to hit a lot of good shots as well. So it was a special day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to NewsWire. I'm Mike Blewitt, standing in for Craig Mish while he attends the All-Star festivities down in Texas. So on to the news, lots of big stories. We'll start with a little bit of relevant gambling news, sports betting news in D.C. D.C. was going to have to wait, but it appears that we have come close to getting budget approval for mobile expansion for sports betting in D.C. It was supposed to go live yesterday. But it seems like we are getting to the point where the mayor has officially signed the budget, and that will then allow for approval on sports betting expansion, particularly with a couple of apps, BetMGM and Caesars. More expansion to come. We will cover that in detail with Pat Evans later this show at 11:30. On to the festivities that I mentioned previously. Last night, at Globe Life Field, we had Teoscar Hernandez, of all the guys that we could have expected to win the home run derby. He comes away with the victory, the first Dodger ever to win the home run derby, and it was a tight one right down to the wire with Bobby Witt. We have a clip here of Teoscar talking about what was going through his mind as Bobby Witt Jr. was hitting bombs.
Oh, man, I was nervous. Not when I see that ball, the last one. When he still got 2 outs and one homer to tie it with me, and then the last shot that he got, it was a little too close to tie it, but thank God it didn't went out. So super happy.
So there's Hernandez, the home run derby champ. Certainly not the name that a lot of you had on your board. Gunnar Henderson was a popular choice, but Teoscar was over 10-1 odds, 10-1, 14-1. You saw those odds move around a little bit. So congrats to all those that hit the little bit of a long shot last night. The game obviously will be played tonight. Skeens against Burns going against one another. We'll get to that in a couple of moments. A big story in the NBA. James Dolan comes out after the massive approval, 11 years, $76 billion in new media rights deals. James Dolan fires off a salvo declaring that he's not happy with the way the revenue is being shared. As you can see the news there from Adrian Wojnarowski, In a letter to the Board of Governors obtained by ESPN, Knicks owner James Dolan levels continued criticism on the revenue-sharing policies. He, quote, "The NBA has made the move to an NFL model. We are well on our way to becoming a one-size-fits-all, characterless organization. Just remember, we did this on the backs of owners like Jerry Buss." So despite the fact that the owners are making more money than ever before on media, despite the fact that his players, in one instance at least, have taken a significant potential pay cut in Jalen Brunson, sacrificing $113 million in earnings if he were to sign next season, James Dolan still comes out and criticizes the revenue-sharing policies. He feels like his hands are tied, particularly on his ability to monetize local media and beyond. But that's the way the NBA is pushing. They are pushing for more exposure on a national level to help increase audience and clearly drive sponsorships and advertising for the network. So moving on to additional big news. We mentioned the All-Star game tonight. That will go off this evening at Globe Life Field. You have Paul Skeens on the bump of the Pittsburgh Pirates going up against Orioles standout Corbin Burns. They will be the starters. Odds for that game right now a little bit quirky in that the National League is laying a run and a half on the run line, but they are plus 100 on the money line. The AL minus 118 on the money line. The run total, you heard Ben and possibly Donnie talking about it, the total right now just at 7.5. 7 of the last 10 games have gone to the under in the All-Star game. Obviously pitching dominant. Plenty of other lines out there, props for you. Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, to win the All-Star Game MVP at plus 800 and plus 950, respectively. Big news in international soccer. For those of you like me that watched as much as you could of the Euros and of Copa America, big news on the manager front. Obviously, we know USMNT looking for a new manager. Could it possibly be Gareth Southgate? He has resigned as England manager after 8 years with the English Football Association. It was thought that he may stay on through the World Cup, but after 8 years with the team, he's coached the third most games, managed the third most games in English team history. It was due to expire. The contract was due to expire in December, and he decided to move on. So he guided England to the 2018 World Cup semis, the Euro 2020 final, and now obviously the World Cup quarters in 2022, and then the final just the other day. As somebody that watches quite a bit of it, extremely talented team. His results historically compare very well to other managers, but there's still a sense of frustration that he didn't get the most out of what is a very talented world-class team at certain positions. We'll see if the U.S. is interested in speaking to him, but it's certainly something that'll be bandied about. On staying in soccer news, Colombia Football Federation President Ramon Jesurun arrested at Copa America final. There was a massive amount of chaos as people were trying to enter the stadium. We saw that clips over and over again. Parts of Hard Rock Stadium destroyed, and there were tussles with authorities, security and police alike. And I think amidst all the confusion, this happened. He was with his son. There was quite a scuffle, and I think it's going to be up to authorities to sort out who was in the wrong and who was actually engaging in criminal activity, which there was much of at Hard Rock Stadium. On to the grass court, hard court, as we approach the U.S. Open in just about 6 weeks. Tennis phenom Carlos Alcaraz, fresh off of his Grand Slam Wimbledon victory, will get a Netflix documentary. That seems to be the flavor of the day. They've done documentaries in golf and tennis a number of different times, and Alcaraz will get his own specific Netflix documentary. I'm of the opinion that it's a little early in his career to put out a career documentary, but it might be pretty fascinating to see how he got to this point at such a young age. Moving on to football, and we will talk football in the next segment as well with Vinnie Iyer from the Sporting News, but a few signing news, contract issues. T. Higgins will play on the franchise tag. They were unable, the Bengals and T. Higgins were unable to reach an agreement on an extension. I think that likely puts him obviously at a good salary for this season, but then beyond that puts him into the free agency pool. Very unlikely that he would come back to the Bengals after that. Browns signed Dustin Hopkins to a 3-year extension, making him one of the NFL's top 5 highest-paid kickers in 2023. He made a franchise record 33 of 36 field goal attempts, including a career-long 58-yard field goal, and he also set an NFL record with 5 consecutive games in which he made a field goal of at least 50 yards. So in a division that's this tight, you're playing in bad weather at points later in the season, they have a kicker that they want that can bombs away from over 50. Good signing for them, and obviously a big windfall for Dustin Hopkins. Calvin Johnson will be inducted into the Pride of the Lions, so the Lions Hall of Fame. It obviously signifies that, look, Dan Campbell has done a lot culturally, and I'll throw Brad Holmes, the GM, in with him. They've done a lot culturally in order to change this team, not just from we're a sad sack losing organization to we can win playoff games and we can potentially get to a Super Bowl, but mending fences that were broken by the previous regime. Ownership has remained the same for many decades, but it was clear that tussles with Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson were making them look amateurish, and I'm glad that they're in a position now where somebody like Calvin Johnson is back in the fold and celebrating with them. So when we come back, we will have Vinnie Iyer from the Sporting News. We'll take a look at the AFC South and the odds for the upcoming season. Can the Texans run it back? Does Trevor Lawrence have a little bit of a bounce-back season to get the Jaguars back in the playoffs? We'll talk with Vinnie right after this on NewsWire.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the 3 teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream Team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those 2 teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. You know, Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
And we are back on the grid. Mike Blewitt hosting NewsWire here. Welcoming in Sporting News is Vinnie Iyer. He's an NFL and fantasy football writer for the Sporting News and host of Locked On Network Fantasy Football. Vinny, good to see you. Focusing on the AFC South today, an interesting division coming off a 2023 season, which was, I guess, safe to say, was characterized by two major events. The emergence of C.J. Stroud and making the Texans a legitimate contender for playoff spots and playoff victories, and the collapse of the Jaguars, who were an 8-3 football team, ended up 9-8, and you're left scratching your head as to what happened to this Trevor Lawrence-led team. So, as we go into 2024, what are your expectations right at the top with the Houston Texans?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of hype around them, not just division-winning repeat hype, but Super Bowl hype, right? I mean, they're kind of profiling a lot like the Bengals with Joe Burrow. Have that young quarterback, have an up-and-coming defense with DeMeco Ryans, added Stephon Diggs in the mix. So it's very hard, though, when you're now the hunted and not the hunter. And some things they did, I think they obviously went a little bit all in with Mixon and Diggs in the backfield, adding Joe Mixon, and maybe saying, okay, we have the team now with C.J. Stroud on the rookie contract. Let's go after it. They also splurged to get Danielle Hunter on defense. So they're going after it for sure, trying to become a heavyweight in the AFC at large, maybe see a crack in the Bills and the Bengals and trying to walk into that. So they should win the division. I mean, I think all the momentum and the talent right now, you would feel the most comfortable with them. I think the interesting part is I think there could be a wild card team from this division with a lot of changes going on behind, and it'll be interesting, but I actually think there's a little bit of momentum more with the Colts and the Titans than the Jaguars at this point.
Interesting. So the Texans win total, Texans to win the South plus 105. So in a division where we often see the favorite and the also Rams or the other contenders a little tighter, there is some distance between the Texans and the Jaguars this year. We'll get into the other teams as well. But to your point about maybe the Colts coming on, it's sort of surprising when you look back at the history of this division, which was called the AFC Soft for years, and nobody thought anybody can contend. But the Titans came on pretty strong. They were a 1 seed a few years ago, famously lost in their first playoff game there. But the Colts have not won this division since all the way back in 2014, the Andrew Luck days. And you think that there's a possibility that they could come on a little bit stronger in Anthony Richardson's hopefully first full season under center.
Yeah, we did see a lot of great flashes from him last year. I know he had the injury that sidelined him pretty quickly. He also missed another game with a concussion before he had to go down with a shoulder surgery. So I look at a lot of profile with the Colts. You also don't have any Jonathan Taylor drama this year. Like, he's locked and loaded. I think they're going to have a better receiving core overall with A.D. Mitchell joining Michael Pittman Jr. They took care of him, Pittman, with a big contract extension, have a very good left tackle in Bernard Raymond. So they've got an offense that can make a lot of noise here. And defensively, they've got some pieces still. I know that it's been reshuffled, but DeForest Buckner is still on the front of that defensive line. So I think the Colts maybe don't sleep on them too much. We haven't seen enough of Richardson to say that we feel as good about him in year two as Stroud, but that also says he has a lot of upside, that he can push the ball downfield and run and have a lot of effect. And keep in mind, Shane Steichen, Jalen Hurts year two, that worked out to be a very nice surprise there with the Eagles and what he was able to do there. And we saw them first become a wild card team before breaking through and getting all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think Steichen and Richardson's relationship is something that we are probably going to be talking about almost every week throughout this season and in future seasons. If they become a real contender, it'll be as a result of Steichen and Richardson being home run hires and draft picks. Let's go back to the Jaguars. We're zigging and zagging here a little bit. Jaguars made a lot of shuffling on their roster, right? Out goes Calvin Ridley, but you bring in Gabe Davis to hopefully help Trevor Lawrence. When this team was 8-3, they had just come off a win to the Texans. It looked like they had control of their own destiny of the division. What do you feel happened to them, and is it going to transfer into this season, all of that negative momentum?
Yeah, I think the disappointing part is they kept all their offensive feelings intact here with Doug Peterson and Press Taylor. Now, Doug Peterson's obviously a good coach. He's won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but I don't think he's the best adjusting coach in the NFL. And what I mean by that is you need to give him the personnel. If there's some shifting things that happen, such as Christian Kirk going down with an injury or Zay Jones not being available, he's not good at moving the receiver around to say Calvin Ridley has got to play a different role in this team when these two guys are gone, or saying Travis Etienne needs to be deployed more as a receiver, right, to help this team. I think a lot of success was in the middle of the field. So they really need to get more dangerous with Gabe Davis, with the rookie Brian Thomas Jr., being able to stretch the field, have some consistency on the outside as well as inside. How to diversify this offense. It gets very boring at times and predictable. And Trevor Lawrence, on top of everything else, played hurt last season. So if he's healthy and you have some of these guys fall into place, I think there'll be some good things for this offense. But really, I think this offense could disappoint again because of this combination that are the coaches. And there might be more on the defense with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker for maybe them to have a bigger burden on this team.
So don't have too much time for the Titans. Will Levis going to be under center there with Brian Callahan, their new head coach. Is this a last-place team again in the South?
There's a lot they're adjusting to. I mean, Will Levis hardly was settled in last year. It's a brand new offense, brand new defense. All these things are going on here. And again, it's a pretty young team overall. So I think there are a lot of pieces that need to fall into place. I mean, I think there's a lot of variables that we're not comfortable with, but I would definitely look right now. I mean, Texans, Colts would be my pecking order in this division, and we'll see how it plays out. Titans will be improved, but Jaguars, I think, are going to fade here in relation to those two other teams.
Great stuff by Vinnie Iyer. You find him on X.com at Vinnie Iyer. That's Iyer, and on the Sporting News talking about football. 3 different divisional champs in the last 3 seasons. If the Colts come back to first place, that would make it 4 champs 4 years in a row. Lots to watch in that division. We'll be right back, guys.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the 3 teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream Team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those 2 teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. You know, Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, welcome back to NewsWire. Now it's time for the SportsGrid Sound Off. What's better than college football media day season? We're focusing on football during the summer, and the SEC had their media days in Dallas, Texas. I'll be headed to Arlington, Texas next week for the United Athletic Conference media day. But Brian Kelly lending a welcoming hand to new Texas A&M coach Mike Elko.
He's a smart football coach. And when I say smart, I don't mean intellectual, although he's got a degree from an Ivy League school, so we could say intellectual as well. But he's a smart football coach. He understands the game, and he's going to play to his strengths, offense, defense, special teams. I think what makes Mike a really good head coach is that he's not just going to be a defensive coach. He's going to make sure that he oversees all of the units because he knows it goes to winning. And I think that's why Mike's going to do very, very well at A&M.
All right, everybody playing nice in the sandbox. And now that it's July, we'll see what happens when late August and September rolls around. Now, our SportsGrid social media consultant Ian McCondy on Team USA basketball after yesterday's victory.
Team USA is now 2-0 in their Olympic exhibition games after beating Australia 98-92 Monday afternoon. The U.S. took control of the game early, amassing a lead as large as 24 points before Australia would put on a furious comeback, cutting it down to 6, but a bunch of Devin Booker free throws would put the game away for the States. Team USA tried out a new starting lineup in this game with Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Joel Embiid, and LeBron James. But more questions are going to have to come up with how well Davis has played compared to Embiid, and what are they going to do when Kevin Durant gets back, as he's still dealing with a calf injury, but he's expected to be a full participant when the Olympics get going. Houston Rockets center Jock Landale led the way for Australia with 20 points and 7 rebounds. And as for Team USA, they now pivot to Wednesday in their next exhibition game against 3-time MVP Nikola Jokic and Serbia.
Obviously trying different lineups yesterday late in the matchup. We saw Tyrese Halliburton out there draining threes to put the game away. So we'll see how that lineup morphs as we get further towards the Olympics and when the games really start to count. Closing out the SportsGrid sound off, Donnie Rightside here with some potential rule changes to the home run derby.
Now, to change the competition, you saw it last night. Hey, they're hitting home runs here, they're hitting home runs there. Change the rule altogether. Do you know who wins the competition, Ben? Not who hits the most home runs, who hits the farthest home run. That's the winner. One goes 525 feet. Hey, he only hit 4 of them. Well, he was trying to swing from his heels. People want to see distance out there and absolute bombs. So if you're going to have guys like Alec Boehm with a sweet swing just making over the fence, that's not fun anymore. Let's do things that were so enjoyable just a few years back when Sanchez and Stanton and Aaron Judge were knocking baseballs off the back wall in Miami. That's fun. It's a simple change. Instead of hitting home runs there, just give me the distance. The guy with the longest distance, he wins home run derby. People would enjoy that because no longer are you saving yourself and calling timeouts because you're tired. Your only goal is to hit a baseball as far as humanly possible. That's fun to watch.
Love Donnie Rightside. Love the fact that he comes up with the ideas, but it's patently absurd that he thinks that people would not be tired trying to hit balls 525 feet, like he said, if that's even possible for some of the competitors that we saw last night. I don't really know what the proper rule set is for the home run derby. I don't like to throw cold water on things that people enjoy. I find it to be, and I've watched all the different formats over the years, it obviously gets very repetitive. It is just batting practice. I think it's fun for casual baseball fans, and it's great for young kids who like to see people hit bombs. I'm not saying home runs aren't exciting, but these are batting practice home runs. And congratulations to Teoscar Hernandez. And I could name a few home run derby champs over the years, but I couldn't name the whole list because it isn't really that important because it's an exhibition. I have attended a home run derby in person. Yoenis Cespedes put on a massive show at Citi Field in 2013, I think it was, at Citi. Might have been a different year, but I sat in 100-degree heat for like 3.5 hours watching guys hit batting practice home runs. There's no more superlatives you can give to it. It's impressive. They are impressive athletes, but it doesn't really matter to me who wins. Obviously, the betting angle is fun, but you can't really gain too much of an edge. I picked Gunnar Henderson last night. What do I know? We're back with Pat Evans at Legal Sports Report right after this.
anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the three teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those two teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. You know, Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Mike Blewitt sitting in for Craig Mish this afternoon on NewsWire. Welcoming in Pat Evans from the Legal Sports Report. Pat, good to see you as always. You find him on X.com at Pat Evans. We'll go over a few stories here that impact the world of sports betting. And we'll start in D.C. Obviously, we are close to the goal line. We're probably at the goal line on this, but we still have to wait some official budget approval for mobile betting expansion within D.C., correct?
Yeah, so it was expected to happen yesterday, but the mayor has yet to sign the budget. So that deadline's July 25th. So we might be waiting another week or so. But the industry generally expected it yesterday. And, you know, Washington's a really interesting market when you get right down to it. It's been kind of the poster child of kind of the failings or the short-sightedness, or however you want to put it, of lottery monopolies on a sports betting market. For a long time, they had an intralot sports betting app that was district-wide, but internal sports teams could partner with other sports books. So you saw like Caesars partner with the Capitals and BetMGM go with the Nationals, and they're able to operate in-person sports books and then a 2-block kind of radius. And those were outperforming the lottery partner. And so that was kind of something we looked at across the nation when we saw other markets doing lottery monopolies of sports betting. Then FanDuel came in and replaced the lottery partner. They've been performing well, but now we've got this new law that's going to open it up to the team partners. And so, you know, it's going to be a very competitive market now, I would assume, even though FanDuel has got a little bit of a head start. Just a really unique market, and it's going to be really fun to watch, even though it is such a small little pocket of people. Just a fun kind of experiment to see how it goes from a district-wide monopoly to now a competitive market.
Yeah, and it's a massive center of commuters, right? Virginia and Maryland residents commuting into D.C. to work previously would have to leave in order to make their bet. So, as Pat said, there was a funky situation where we had brick and mortar sports books that allowed you a 2-block radius from Nationals Park and where the Capitals play in order to be able to bet. Now this will expand. It seems like it's just a matter of days here, maybe even hours, and we'll get there. And not only will it be FanDuel, BetMGM, and Caesars, but it seems like the market could get flooded with additional operators in the future months.
Yeah, I mean, the Redskins are able to, not the Redskins. Wow, that's a throwback to old times there. The Commanders could partner with somebody, and so there's lots of options kind of in there to gain with. I don't think it'll be a huge market because I think that you have to partner with the team. So I think, though, I guess the Mystics and the what's the other team? I'm blanking. There could be a couple more added for sure in the market.
Great. So a lot to focus on with DC. You mentioned before off air some additional legislation in Missouri potentially breaking as well. Is that correct?
Well, so there's a ballot petition that has been turned in May, and we're in the process of waiting for those signatures to be validated. They're at the local election offices being kind of sorted out. There's 340,000 signatures that were turned in. And it only needs about 170,000 valid signatures. So they felt confident enough in those numbers that when they turned it in early. And so now we're waiting on those. Before that is approved in July 30th is when the deadline is to go on the November 5th ballot. We got a update from the committee. They've kind of halted their fundraising, I think probably to wait to see if it's on the ballot or not. But up to this point, they've raised $6.5 million from FanDuel and DraftKings. That was largely used for the the signature collection. I assume once we get to the part where it's confirmed for the November ballot, we're going to see more funds coming in from DraftKings and FanDuel, maybe some additional operators to get kind of the word out to vote for it. Polls are kind of split right now. It looks like every time we see a new poll from Missouri, it's pretty even, which isn't totally a surprise. But it's been a long process in Missouri. We've had multiple legislative efforts fall short because of a roadblock in the Senate. And that didn't change this year. The House, which had previously passed it 2 sessions, said we're not even going to bother to pass it over to the Senate because it's not going to go anywhere. But it does set up a very similar framework to the legislation if voters decide to approve it. It'd be, online and in-person sports books for 13 casinos and the 6 sports teams, and 2 additional standalone online sports book operators that the State Gambling Commission could award. So it'd be a nice, robust market. Certainly something that has been in the works a long time, and we're just waiting to see official confirmation that it's on the November ballot.
And known as a huge sports state as well, not just professional, but college sports as well. So it would be a fascinating market. Let's talk about Minnesota now, because this is a little bit more complex. It seemed like there was momentum, and then there were a group of legislators that were prepared to and successfully spiked it for the 2024 calendar year. So their congressional session is over for the year, and it looks like we'll have to come back in 2025 in order to try this again.
Yeah, I'm working up a story right now, talking to different stakeholders and politicians that have been, leading this charge the past couple of years, kind of a similar situation as Missouri, that there's been a lot of hope, a lot of work toward the end goal of legalization, but it's just fallen short repeatedly year after year. And this year we came into it saying, wow, this is the one state that can probably get it done at this session. Well, sure enough, as politics is not simple. I think we've learned that in the past couple of years, or decades. But
days,
yeah,
last few days.
Well, that too. It looked almost like a shoo-in to get things going and pass, but it just everything just kind of fell apart. One thing happened, and dominoes kept falling. Last day of the session, they were a group of supporters said, we've got a deal, but we don't think we're going to get a vote on it. And so that's, I think, something a lot of people say, just maybe keep hopes alive that, maybe they get some extra votes in the election year or whatever. But as it comes out now, it seems like it was less likely that there was a deal, and it was just posturing from all the stakeholders saying, we did it, but we did get the vote. And now heading into 2025, you're looking at a whole new House. It could switch parties again. You're looking at these kind of opponents that kind of stood up and said, no, this isn't going to get done. There's a chance that 2025 is less likely than it was this year, despite that comment on the last day from stakeholders saying, yeah, we got it done. Maybe this will be great for next year, but it almost looks like it might be less likely to pass next year.
It's a good reminder that regardless of whatever your perception, you, myself, anybody watching or listening, whatever your perception of a particular state's political leanings are, these bills do need bipartisan support on some level, and that's not always it's never an easy thing to arrive on. In perhaps certain states it's been far easier than others, but clearly Minnesota, you would have thought, yeah, a little bit more socially liberal, this should be a slam dunk. But the sports books need people on their side in order willing to push the legislation through, especially considering that there's so many other things on their plate. It just may not be a high priority. Is that fair to say, Pat?
That's very high. That happened 2 years ago. The Democratic Party, which has control, said, we've got all these things that are a slam dunk. We're going to take them ahead. And they left sports betting behind. And so that exemplifies what you just said.
Good stuff, as always, from Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. I'm back with Maria Marino in the WNBA next on NewsWire.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the three teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those two teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played 2 matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Back on NewsWire with my friend Maria Marino. We used to sit here right in this studio, Studio 34, and do shows together. And now here I am again getting a chance to speak to you. Great to see you. Excited to talk with you about the WNBA. You get to see Maria whenever you like on Action Network. She's a host there, does play-by-play, and clearly is a WNBA expert, and that's what we're here to talk about because we have an incredible lineup today. We get started. Yes. In fact, the game just started a few minutes ago where we've got games galore today, and starting off with Phoenix and Washington. They've gone live about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, it's so good to talk to you. Great to see you. I missed those studio shows back in the day, but man, a lot has changed since we used to do those shows a few years ago. Absolutely. Now the WNBA is all anybody's talking about. So it's right. Probably the most exciting season that I've been covering. You talked about all the games today. Some good ones on tap for sure.
Yeah, so Phoenix and Washington underway. We've got Seattle and L.A., and then a big one between the Sun and the Liberty. Why don't we focus on that? Obviously, the Liberty at the top of the league right now. Just 3.5-point favorites today. Expectations for this game in particular as we get a little bit closer to where we're going to take a month-long break for the Olympics. Some big games before we hit that break.
Yeah, huge game. The top two teams, you mentioned it, the Liberty are now at 20 wins. They sit in first place, the Sun just behind them. And I think this is a real chance for the Sun to make a statement because they've been known the last couple seasons as one of the best teams in the WNBA, but they have not been able to handle the Liberty. They are 9-1. The Liberty are 9-1 straight up against the Sun in the last two seasons. 6-4 ATS, so that's a little bit interesting. I think the line is around 5 right now, and the big question mark is, will Breanna Stewart be able to play? Because she was listed as questionable due to rest. That seems to indicate to me, because we see that rest designation, she might not play, and that's something to look out for with the last couple of days here before the Olympic break and the All-Star break. A lot of these teams that have big name Olympians are kind of erring on the side of caution, I think, as far as, resting and things of that nature. So I think without Stewie in the lineup, because the Liberty also have other injuries. Benajanalani Hamilton has missed a few games now. Kayla Thornton is listed as questionable. She's an important role player. So all of those kind of piling up, I actually lean the Sun to cover here, even though the Liberty, like I said, have kind of owned the Sun over the last two seasons. But I think the Sun, I don't think that sits very well with them. And I think this one means a lot to them. So I wouldn't be surprised here if we get another close game. They played last week and the Liberty only won by 3, did manage to cover a 2.5-point spread at that point.
Yeah, the Aces play tonight. They take on the Chicago Sky. I think the thing to note about the Aces is early on in the season, they took a few losses that people maybe didn't anticipate or didn't expect, a little bit of a championship hangover, but they've won 9 of their last 10, and the Aces look to be challenging for the title yet again. It'll be a long season when they come back from the break. I think that's what's unique about this break is, could we see a tale of two seasons, right? Are the Aces going to be recapturing the momentum that they have right now when they take a month off?
Exactly. And you have to remember too, Mike, that the Aces have 4 Olympians. They have 4 Olympians. Right. So their 4 best players essentially are not going to be taking a break and resting and chilling out. They're going to be, going to Paris and going through all those motions following the All-Star break, which is this weekend. So I think that's important to note. I also think that the Aces have a bit of a tougher schedule in the latter half of the season. The schedule to this point has been a little bit lighter for the Aces. And, once Chelsea Gray came back, obviously it changed everything. They were dominating way more. They did lose their last 2 against the spread, against Washington and Atlanta, which are both of those are not good teams. So I wonder, I do think they'll probably take care of business and win handily tonight against Chicago, because I just don't think Chicago has the firepower to keep up. But this is definitely going to be an entertaining game. Chicago has been scrappy. Their win-loss record isn't great, but they've been competitive. They have, obviously, Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso who can rebound, and they've been doing a great job. It's hard to know what you're going to get from them offensively night to night. I do expect a bounce back tonight from Kennedy Carter. She struggled in the last game, only had 7 points. But if you look at her game log, I mean, she's been scoring at will on just about anybody.
So Aces 13.5-point favorites tonight, a total of 173.5, the highest on the board for today's action and tomorrow's action. Again, tomorrow, the last day before the Olympic break. I just want to ask you a sort of a big picture lens on this season. As we head towards the championship, plenty more time before we'll see which teams arrive there. But the Aces, despite the early season swoon, are the favorites to win the championship at plus 145. The Liberty right behind them at plus 170. Given everything that you've said, are you concerned about all of those Olympic minutes potentially hurting the Aces in the back half of the year?
Yeah, I am a little bit. I do think that they're going to have to get to a point where they've already been behind a little bit, and so they're not used to being this low in the standings. And in the past couple of years, when they won and they repeated, I mean, they were the top seed, and that gives you a slightly easier road throughout the playoffs. So I do wonder, without getting the most favorable path. Plus, it's just so hard to three-peat, right? So, is this the year? Like I said, I still don't fully believe in the Sun because I'm not sure about them offensively. The Liberty, I think, really, really have a chance, but I still feel like sometimes they're not as crisp as they could be, and I want to see a little bit more consistency from their top players on a night-to-night basis. But as I said, they have been dealing with some injuries, but I do wonder, could this be the year for the Liberty?
Great stuff, as always, from Maria Marino. You find her on X.com at Maria C. Marino, Action Network, play-by-play, breaking down the WNBA and women's college basketball. It's great to see her. It'll be great to see you on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Will they both make it? Yes. But it has more to do with the fact of the three teams that are not really good at all in Dallas, Washington, and the Sparks, and an Atlanta Dream team without Ryan Howard that's spiraling out of control. If they can get those two teams, Indiana and Chicago, that's going to be a major boom for ratings.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
It is Canada. Canada is one of those teams that's the darling of the tournament right now. They're still 9-1.
To win a tournament, or even to advance far into a tournament like this, you need a bit of good fortune. And it doesn't matter if you're getting the good fortune that Canada has, where they played two matches where they were up a man, or you had the good fortune of Argentina, who's one of the best teams in the world, who just got on the good side of the draw.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Okay, welcome back. Closing this out, want to give a shout out to my producer, Frank Bartunik, for helping me sound as good as I can possibly sound today. Thank you to Maria Marino and Pat Evans and Vinnie Iyer for being our guests throughout the show. I'll be back tomorrow as Craig continues to get through the MLB All-Star coverage, bringing us great stories from Texas. So right now it's time for SportsGrid's Last Licks. All right, so got a little bit of issue here with Jaylen Brown. And for all of you out there that think you can say what you want to say, perhaps under your breath, perhaps quietly to the person sitting next to you, the internet and the world is filled with cameras and lip readers. So watch what you say, because it appears that Jaylen Brown was giving his honest assessment of Bronny James as a potential professional basketball player, and it appears that Jaylen doesn't think he's it. Now, Jaylen then came back and said Bronny has all the tools around him to be successful, and look forward to watching his growth. He's covering his tracks. He obviously got caught saying something that he didn't want to be public, but Jaylen Brown, you got to be careful, dude. I mean, you're too famous, you're too popular, you've just won a title, and now people are reading your lips to try to get you in trouble. I'm not getting you in trouble, but I do have to report on it. Next, moving on to Cameron Payne, NBA journeyman, signed with the New York Knicks yesterday, and upon signing with the New York Knicks, his new teammate Josh Hart, consummate jokester, prankster, says shout out Terry. Now, what does that mean? I had to have Frank explain it to me earlier. Well, Cam Payne, unfortunately, was arrested several weeks ago for not giving his real identity to police officers who were investigating an incident between himself and his partner. And he gave his name as Terry Johnson. It's not his real name. His real name is Cam Payne. They told him over and over again, we think you're lying. Please tell us what your real name is. And if you don't, we're going to have to arrest you. And they promptly did, because he didn't give them his real name. And Josh Hart figures he's going to call him Terry from here on out. And to be honest, I live in New York. MSG is right behind me. People are going to call him Terry. That's his new nickname, is Terry Johnson. I don't know how many minutes Cam Payne is going to get this season with the New York Knicks, but when he does, I assure you, people will call him Terry Johnson and not Cam Payne. He's obviously spent time on a bunch of different teams, the Sixers, the Bucks, the Thunder, and more. And finally, Adrian Beltre. Hall of Famer Adrian Beltre. The guy who does not like his head to be touched. Hopefully nobody will do it when he throws out the first pitch tonight. He throws out the ceremonial first pitch. Longtime Texas Ranger and Hall of Famer Beltre will be the guy throwing it out. I think people are going to be excited. It's been a really fun year for the Rangers, the World Championship, hosting the All-Star Game. They get one of their Hall of Famers and favorite players to come out and throw this first pitch. So hopefully whomever sings the national anthem tonight will not get the grief that last night's singer received. I don't pile on. I know Ingrid Andress is receiving a lot of grief. I think she went out there, gave it her best shot. Maybe it wasn't her best effort, but I'm not one to pile on. I don't think she was disrespectful about it. I think she had her own interpretation. Probably didn't work out exactly the way she intended. But, again, I'm not here to pile on. I don't think she was disrespectful in the way that other people have been in the past. And, again, somebody will get a shot tonight. I don't know who's singing the anthem, but feel free to enjoy the game tonight. We'll give you some data on the game tonight. Like I said earlier in the show, the National League are favored, but you have the American League at minus 118 on the money line. 7.5 is the total for tonight. Even betting on both sides. You got the All-Star Game MVP with Ohtani at plus 800, Judge at plus 950, Bryce Harper plus 1100, and Gunnar Henderson, my pick for the home run derby last night, at plus 1200. He did not win the home run derby, didn't even come close. Odds to hit a home run, to record a hit, RBIs, 2+ RBIs, 2+ total bases. That's the bet that I like the most right now. I'm going to bet on my guy, Judge, 2+ total bases. That's plus 210. So, once again, thank you to all the guests from today. Maria Marino, Pat Evans, Vinnie Iyer. He likes the Colts in the AFC South. I didn't really see that coming. I don't think he thinks they're going to necessarily run away with the division. but he likes them to challenge. They haven't won that division in 10 years. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow.